Hello and welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Travel Coffee Break. I'm Alistair Mackenzie and I've got a panel of experts in with me today to talk about motorhome travel, RV travel if you want to call it that, but on the other side of the Atlantic that's what they prefer, and campervans. And I'm sure we'll get into the distinctions between them, but essentially I always think of campervans as the smaller version of motorhomes. The guys you see in the film strip below are from both the industry side and also consumer side. I've got Angelica. What I'll do is I'll introduce them and just get them to say a little bit about themselves very quickly. So first of all, I've got on my screen, and it always looks different to everybody else on their screens, I've got Angelica Schwarf, who is a German blogger, and Angelica, you've been quite a keen RVer, haven't you?
Yes, I started my first RV trip through the US from Chicago to San Francisco in September 13, and the last one I had was last year from Florida to New York. So I discovered the southern states, and I loved it. So I'm a big RV fan now. And I did it on my own. It was all alone in a big, huge RV. So it's doable, and it's lovely.
Excellent. Okay, we'll find out more about that in a moment. Dan Alp is one half of a brother team who run Juicy Rentals, although there's various versions of Juicy Rentals now because over the years they've grown and they're slowly taking over the universe. You started out, Dan, with your brother in New Zealand in 2001 thereabouts?
Yeah, it was. So 2001 we started up the business in New Zealand, just renting out cars, and then we diversified into motorhomes or campervans in 2005, and now we're operating out of New Zealand, Australia, the US, and plans, I guess, to juicify the world. So we've got the UK in target and a few other areas within the United States. So.
You're in the States at the moment. I love, by the way, I love your graphics. I love your logo. People can see it there in your name tag, lower third. But it's also your title, because there's an element of fun in everything that Juicy do. And you and your brother, I think you call yourselves the chief juicifiers, don't you?
Yeah, exactly right. So we tend not to take ourselves too seriously. Our motorhomes or campervans, as we have, are generally all green and purple. So they're very much branded, and our business is, I guess, it's the verge of an equivalent of within the rental industry.
Excellent. Donna Bloy is from, well, this is it's a spin-off, isn't it, Donna? Donna's with. And I've got to get this right way around now, Caravanning and Camping Club in the UK. But the Caravanning and Camping Club have actually sort of expanded out globally. So you are Worldwide Motor Homing Holidays now as a brand. Just explain that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Camping and Caravanning Club is all about promoting camping and caravanning for people the world over. And members have been travelling around the world. Really, we've got archive stuff going back to the 1920s. They were intrepid travellers then. But we've been running long-haul fly-drive motorhome holidays since the late 90s. And it's just grown and grown within the club, and now it's open to everyone, and that's what we operate under the name Worldwide Motorhoming Holidays. So whether you want to go it alone or whether you want to go as part of a group, we can organise trips to Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, and so on.
Excellent. Okay, we'll come on to that in a moment. Jennifer Dombrowski is, again, a travel blogger. And Jennifer, you've been recently in Iceland, I think. And we're not going to hear you because your mic's muted at the moment, but you might want to... That's it.
Yes, we spent our third trip in Iceland going around by campervan, which was really cool to do because if you've been to Iceland, you might know that distances between hotels or the farmhouses where you stay are really great. So you spend a lot of time driving there, and the weather's really unpredictable. So it's a lot of fun to travel Iceland by a camper van. You get away from the light pollution, so you can see spectacular northern lights displays if you go during the right times of the year. And since your camper van is your home, you don't have to worry about making it to a hotel or the weather. You can just pull over and it is your home for the week. It's pretty cool.
Excellent. Excellent. I should say, by the way, if you're watching I've activated the Showcase app, and what I haven't been doing is switching on the various websites as we're talking about it. So the Showcase app is the one that has the little yellow tickets, and I'm just making Jennifer, your blog is Lux Adventure Traveller, and I'm just making that live. Angelica, I'm doing the same with yours, and I'll click through these as I go up. There's the Juicify one, so people can find those sites really easily. Let's move on to John O'Sullivan, who's Turtle Rabbit Travel. John, tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, hi everyone. Like Alistair said, my name is John, and Turtle Rabbit Travel is my business. What we're doing is we're trying to do two things here. The first is we're trying to get more people to travel to the United States, foreigners to travel to the United States, and the second thing that we're trying to do is make RV and camper van travel more accessible. One of the things that we found is that the youth market, specifically 18 to 35-year-olds, are intimidated by all the choices that they have to make when they go to book an RV, and that's keeping a lot of them from booking. And so what we're trying to do is make it a very simple process where people can come onto our site, book a trip with us, and we take all of the decision-making out of it. So we have a tour manager that leads a fleet of RVs that travel together. And each of the itinerary goes to the same place, and then there's activities in every destination. And so we have a trip in the West Coast that goes to Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and the Grand Canyon, and the East Coast that goes to New York, Boston, and New England. And the idea is, we all here know how fun RVs and camper vans are, and I think a lot of people aspire to do it, but once they come to the actual process of booking, there's a lot more challenges, especially for young people who maybe on their first international trip. And so that's what we're doing at Turtle Rabbit Travel.
Okay, excellent. And finally, last but not least, Patrick Richardson. I was saying to the others before we went live, but I'll say for the audience too. You and I, Pat, we go back a bit, all the way back to the early '90s. And you've always been Mr. Motorhome. You and Linda, your wife, because at that time you were the general sales agent for Cruise America, which is probably one of the biggest rental companies in the States, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes, it is, if not the biggest. Sure. And that was, we were in that position for Cruise America for close to over 30 years. And but before that, as you can see, I'm not the youngest on the panel today. I can actually claim being the first to produce a motorhome program for the United States available in the UK and European market. This was when I was doing some work for Pan Am, and they decided it was a good idea and sent me screaming off to the US, totally a non-believer, and I produced it as they demanded. And a year later, they gave up in disgust, but I'd been hooked, and I've been hooked ever since.
And your site, themotorhomeexperts.com, is the sort of the cornerstone of what you do. But you also have sort of those sub brands. You still, I think, you have Cruise America and Cruise Canada as well on other sites that people can stumble across. But essentially, they come to you at Motorhome Experts, and everything can be booked from there.
Absolutely, and that is a live booking facility.
Excellent. Okay. I'm just going to say to viewers, the other app that's open at the moment is the Q&A app. You'll find that you should see a little Q&A button at the top right-hand side of your screen. And for those on the panel, you'll see it on the left-hand side. It's one of those in that row of icons, the Q&A app, and that will call up questions that viewers can ask. Just type in a question there, and then we get to see it, and then we can hopefully answer it. And we've got a couple in there already, so I'm going to get round to those shortly. Let me go back to John O'Sullivan, because I was interested in what you were saying, John, about that youth market and the way that you're reaching them. What ages are we talking about? Because I'm not clear on how there is a minimum threshold for being able to drive or rent a motorhome, isn't there? An RV?
In the U.S., the laws are pretty liberal, and I'm sure some of the other people on the panel can attest to this, is that as long as you have a full valid driving license in your home country, you're okay to drive in the U.S., assuming that you're 21 or older. And so that's the threshold if you're asking for.
So it is 21.
But that 21 is only for the driver. And so we say that we're targeting 18 to 35-year-olds because there may be groups of friends where there are some people who are 21, 22, 23, and they have friends who are 18 to 19, and we don't want to exclude those people.
Okay. This is for you. This is a new project. It's a startup, isn't it? I mean, ironically, your background was in flotilla sailing holidays, so it's the same thing essentially.
It's exactly the same thing. That's the concept, really. Is I've spent my last 4 years in Greece and Croatia working on yacht flotillas, and it's basically yacht flotillas on dry land. Everything is the same. You have a group of people, they're in a vehicle or boat, they're going to a marina or RV park, and they're trying to see destinations in a really unique way that's a bit off the track. One of the other things that with young people that we're seeing is that there's a bit of a backlash going on with traditional package tour operators. There's a big rise in non-traditional options like yacht flotillas. A lot of travel companies are also going after targeting or marketing their trips as being small group trips with local guides. People are getting turned off at the idea of just traveling on a big bus. And so the RV fleet idea is just another innovation in that to try to make it a more interesting way to explore the world.
Interesting, Donna, because what you're offering is similar in the sense that it's escorted tours and probably for older users. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. I would say most of our travellers are 55 plus, and the other end of the scale, we sometimes see people in their late 70s and 80s who still have got that lust to travel and can do so. Motorhoming is a great way to do it because they can go at their own pace. But if they go with a group, if they go on one of our escorted tours, like John was saying, you've got that backup and support as well as the sociability of the whole thing. When you've had a great day driving through the Rockies and you've seen some bear, you want to talk to people about it and show people it at night, and that's what you enjoy.
But you're not driving in convoy.
No, absolutely not. No, we definitely don't recommend convoy. With the exception, actually, of one country in South Africa and in Southern Africa, where you're covering, because we have one tour that goes through South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Namibia, and there we do say it's a good idea to buddy up, just because if there's any mechanical problems and breakdowns, then you're in Kruger Park, so you're not going to want to get out and have a look at that tyre. You're going to need someone else to call for you or just help. So that's the only exception. But otherwise, no, the days are completely free for people to go at their own pace and do their own thing.
And in your case, I'm guessing a lot of your clients are club members or have to be club members?
No, they don't have to be club members. Majority still are. Worldwide Motorhoming Holidays is quite well known within the club now. But right from the beginning, we've found that people have found out about the tours, obviously online or by word of mouth. And so we've always had a number of people. And in fact, last year, probably about 1 in 5 of the people travelling with us was a non-member. So it's no barrier. Everyone is welcome, and we were there to help people get out to do motorhome holidays.
I think it's a fascinating idea. It's something I ran into just over a year ago. It was not the last one, but the one before that, the camping and caravanning show, or caravanning and camping show in the NEC in Birmingham. And I ran into a company called GB Privilege, who did exactly the same thing, only into Europe in this case, and what they were aimed at were motorhome owners. So it wasn't people who were renting motorhomes, but they were taking them on tour, and they were saying that their regular clients, what they like about it is the fact that there's a kind of a fixed point where, as you say, at the end of the day, they can meet up and talk and all the rest of it. But on the way, they'll go off and do their own thing and thoroughly enjoy it. So I think for both you and John, I think it sounds like a brilliant part of the market.
Well, exactly, and the European thing was actually where we started. It was wider out of that. And when I was listening to Jennifer talking about Iceland, we have an escorted tour that goes to Iceland, but people take their own units. So they take either caravans or their motorhomes, and our group stays there for 3 weeks. So they get a whole 3 weeks to explore Iceland, and that's one of the most popular tours.
Excellent. By the way, guys, if you want to chip in, don't feel you have to just sit there. If you've got a question or anything like that. And one thing I was going to ask both Pat and Dan was, do you have any similar kind of product? I hate that word, but do you offer anything like that?
What, in terms of escorted? No.
Okay.
Which is fine, because we're operating in different segments, complementary segments probably. However, our customers are not left alone to their own devices. Our, I'd like to think, USP is, although yes, everything is bookable online, as soon as somebody does it, their phone will be ringing within a minute. It'll be us, and we'll be offering a complete tailor-made, and it is a free service, so we've been very fortunate that we've probably driven every tourist route in North America. As you can notice, I've had time to do that. And this is something that we're very happy and enjoy sharing with the customers. So we guide them, offer them advice on campsites, all that sort of thing. So they're very far from being just left to their own devices.
Will you book campsites for them? Pre-book them?
In some cases we will, but we're normally picking anyway those that are available online with their own online booking.
Okay. Dan, what about you? Do you have anything in the same line?
Not as such as escorted tours, but what we do have is we obviously offer itineraries and information to people. We also have throughout New Zealand and Australia, we have a Juicy Travel business which allows people to use a concierge service to forward book accommodation and campgrounds. But also what we tend to find is that our customers essentially become part of a community. They're driving vehicles that look the same, and we find that they end up in the same locations parked together. So they'll go into a campground on the west coast of New Zealand, and you'll drive in there, and there'll be a big campground, and there'll be 20 Juicy vans all parked right next door to each other. So they become part of that community, and they share adventures, and I'm sure a fair bit else. So.
Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that's what you want for Cruise America, isn't it, Pat? For them to recognise each other and gang together when they get to their.
Yeah, you certainly can't miss a Cruise America vehicle. They're very heavily, not just logoed, but they have graphics all over them, different graphics.
You wave to each other when you see each other on the road. I've been in a Cruise America. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, we have a Juicy wave as well, which is very amusing. So.
It's great. I've looked at what you guys are doing over there at Juicy, and the vans are great, and I like what's going on in that sector as well, because it's you guys and there's a few others as well that are being really bold with the design of the vans, so that they're extremely recognizable and memorable. And it's so interesting, like when it comes to booking RVs, I feel like people really do need a safety net. They need to have their hands held just a little bit, and so that's even if it's just as much as just like having strong branding on the actual vehicles, or going so far as to do what I'm doing, which is doing these fleet tours. people just need to know that they're going to be supported, because there's a term I've heard to describe at least young travelers, which is that they're aspirationally adventurous. They want to be the sort of people that are adventurous, but they also need that safety net. They need that extra push to let them know that they're not going to be left completely on their own. And so those little things make a big difference, don't they?
Yeah,
Unless they're strong, independently minded travellers like Angelica, who's prepared to go off by herself all the way across the States. Let's talk size, Angelica. You say you're in a large motorhome. For how many people?
For you, from the business and the industry, you will laugh, but for me it was too big. I was in a C27, and so it basically would have been able to host 6 people. So I had it all for myself. I would have loved if I would have been able to have a smaller van. I've been to New Zealand and I saw many of the juice events and I love them, and I love the size of it. Especially if it's a female traveler, you don't want to, you basically you're pushing out gas all the time without really using it. But I mean, it was comfortable. It was awesome. I had the best time of my life. That's why I did it again last year. And as a consumer, I've seen on the road, I've seen many convoys. I have no idea if that was organized or not. May have been friends. And on the campgrounds, of course, that's very funny for me, because I think that both industries that are offering these more guided tours are different to my experience. Or, yes, I've never seen young campers. I was 42 now. I was the youngest one on the campgrounds in the U.S. Winter birds there. But maybe it's because they're too afraid. And it's in New Zealand. I saw many young people in the juicy camper vans. And it's a great experience, but I would love the industry more to offer for solo travelers. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. And it's in a good position to do that, because I think one of the characteristics of the whole industry, the sector, is actually it is incredibly friendly. Motorhome owners are friendly, campers are friendly. When you get to a campsite, I mean, for you, turning up at campsites in the States on either of your 2 trips, as a solo woman getting out of this giant van, I mean, I'm guessing that you didn't have any trouble meeting people. And
I was invited several times for dinners, for coffee, for whatever, and I had great talks, interesting talks. And they all showed me their big RVs. You're like, yeah, okay. I always had the smallest RV, even with the 27 feet. I mean, for us, for Germans, that's quite a big RV. But I mean, the C-class, the A-class, and those are like tour buses. And so they all invited me in. We had some more on the campfire, and they even invited me to watch a movie, open air. Some campers had an own movie theater with them. It's crazy what they have. So no, it's great. It's really good way for a solo traveler to get in touch with locals. Maybe not the locals, but the people from all over the place. It's been awesome. Yeah, that's how I like this much. I didn't take any friends.
That's a good point. But when you, of those 2 trips, when you got back, what were the highlights? When you were writing about it, when you were blogging about it, but also when you were talking to friends, what were you kind of saying? Oh, you should have been there. This was fantastic. What were the sort of the best moments?
Well, definitely the roads in the U.S. If you're coming from Europe, it's unbelievable. I mean, New Zealand, hello, the same for you. I've been to New Zealand, and I said to the PR, what I really want to do is a road trip with an RV through New Zealand, because these roads are so that they scream for drive me, drive me, drive me. And I pulled over a cop in Lincoln, U.S. On a Harley, because I like this bike. I'm also a motorcycle girl, so and I started to talk with him, and it's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm traveling the U.S. from Chicago to San Francisco in this RV. And he said, why? Because there's open fields for miles and miles, and then there's mountains for miles, and then there's the Salt Lake for miles, and then there's this and that for miles, and never stops. And I said, that's exactly why. That's what I want to see. And that's, I once heard that the human eye can maybe watch 60 miles or something, but in the US or in New Zealand, you have the feeling that's 30 miles. It's unbelievable. It's beautiful, and the freedom, of course. You can go wherever you want if that's okay with the RV company, of course. And you cannot drive on dirt roads, definitely not, etc., etc. But you can stop and just stay if you like it, and that's what I appreciated a lot.
Jennifer, in Iceland, I mean, I know the roads are fantastic for the most part, but are there any off-road areas? Does it kind of deteriorate into rugged tracks, and can you take RVs there?
Well, the camper vans, what's great is we went with a company called Cuckoo Campers in Iceland. I know Juicy's not there yet. But they have
will be.
everything from, you know, a small van that could accommodate 2 people to more off-road vehicles that are appropriate for what they call the F-roads in Iceland. So they're sort of the hardcore, you need 4-wheel drive. And so those are available too if you really want to get into the interior. And so you can go off-road as well, and it's great.
I'm working my way around to a question from Paul Bonsfield, who's let me just select that so it gets tagged in the notes at the right time. Paul Bonsfield asks, in New Zealand, are there any roads or areas that you can't take an RV, such as unmade roads, etc.? What are the restrictions? Sounds like one for you, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have very, very few restrictions in New Zealand. There's probably 3 roads, everyone's terms and conditions you can't drive on.
Dan, your audio is not good. It's buzzing a lot. Do you want to? Yeah, just it hasn't done that before. I'm not quite sure. Maybe if you turn it down a bit, or is it feeding back, or anything like that? Try. Yeah.
Is that better now?
Try that.
You can hear me now?
That's better. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Sorry. We have very few restrictions in New Zealand. So basically, you can drive on most roads as long as it's either a registered road or a road leading into a campground. So there's about 3 roads you can't drive on, which are in terms and conditions. But quite honestly, you wouldn't want to. But we have a big ski business in the winter down in New Zealand as well. So a lot of those roads are unsealed, and all the vans can go up there. So you can pretty much see most of the country, no issues at all.
I was thinking when you said we have a big ski business down there that you meant you Juicy had a Juicy ski resort.
We have a ski product, but it's with another company, with a field called Treble Cone just out of Wanaka in New Zealand. So we offer a ski for free product. So it's big business. We actually do the equivalent trading as far as volume in the middle of winter as we do in the middle of summer.
It does remind me that, of course, one of the other big advantages of having camper vans or motorhomes is, of course, you can take a lot of stuff with you. So if you are an enthusiastic, cyclist or quintessentially a surfer with your VW, then it makes life really easy. And for skiers, I'm guessing, and snowboarders, the same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of space. Our vehicles aren't necessarily designed for big, massive suitcases. So we have a lot of people that store them at our locations, unpack, and then get in the van and literally, well and truly live in it for their adventure while they're down there.
Just thinking about that business of the roads and the road qualities and where you can take motorhomes and RVs and camper vans. What about insurance? Are there different levels of insurance, or how tricky is insurance? Is it all bundled up?
So for us, we have New Zealand, Australia, and the US are different. New Zealand and Australia is relatively simple, where we just have a standard deductible for your vehicle, and you can waive that down. So like our deductible in New Zealand is $2,000, and you can pay 2 options, the maximum being $25 a day, and you have a 0 deductible. So it's very inclusive and very simple, and third parties all covered, and no liabilities around third-party medical and etc. like that. The US is a different market. But we also have quite an inclusive product, so we try and simplify it as much as possible, because I think part of the the sort of the pitfalls in the US is that renting vehicles can be quite confusing, as John mentioned, and I think that it's very relevant that that we're working with other operators over here to make it as simple as possible and take away that confusion.
Pat, does that apply to you too? When people book with you, what do you do with insurance? Are there various levels?
Basically, the only two things to be concerned with is that the vehicle itself, in terms of third-party liability, if you hit somebody, cause damage, anything like that, there's an automatic $10 million cover on every vehicle. So there's pretty good protection for the renter in that case. When it comes to the vehicle and what the customer potentially would be responsible for, that is a maximum of $1,000. The only thing that invalidates that is anything which is irresponsible, caused to anything which could be considered irresponsible. This would be driving well off road, in other words, getting rocks and sort of thing underneath the vehicle, or, and I've got to hold my hand up, and I've done this one, taken the air conditioning off the top by driving under something.
But for all of you operators, I mean, that's something that you will absolutely handhold your customers through, the whole issue of insurance. And I'm guessing for the most part, I mean, not for any financial reason, generally try and talk them up, because they want to be able to enjoy themselves, in a relaxed way and not worry about taking the air conditioning unit off the top. Is that about right, Donna? What about you?
Yes, absolutely. On the tours, we always make sure that the vehicles come with the highest level of insurance that we can purchase from the company, so that members don't have to worry about anything. Tour members don't have to worry. And on the tailor-made holidays, because we can package up individual holidays, put together exactly what people want to do if they want to travel by themselves, we always recommend that they go for the maximum insurance. Because yes, like Patrick, we've all done it. I remember doing a trip around California, quite a long trip, about 2,500 miles in 8 days, with a 31-foot motorhome, fantastic trip. Went past the motorhome depot, about to drop it off, had that, shall I fill up with fuel or shall I return it partially empty? No, I've got time, I'll fill it up with fuel. Went to the petrol station and managed to hook the back wheel arch over a cement pot in the petrol station. And at the end of that, you're just so glad you've taken the maximum insurance. It's the only way.
Yeah, and the common story we always hear from our customers who, if they do have an accident, is, I've never had an accident in my life, and they come and hire us, and it's the first time they do. So it's we can say, well, you're covered, so there's no problem there.
Jennifer, was your Iceland trip trouble-free?
Yeah, actually it was. Everything went really smoothly. When we picked up our camper van, they had great maps with which roads that you should avoid with the type of camper van that we had. We made sure we had a previous trip where it wasn't clear whether it was a diesel or a gasoline vehicle. So that's something that's always, I think, important to ask when you're renting any kind of vehicle. Just make sure you're putting the right kind of fuel in there. That's a mishap you don't want to encounter.
And thinking about when I was asking Angelica, I mean, the same for you. When you got back and you were thinking about this, when you were writing your trip up, and when you were talking to friends, what was your the bestest moment? Jennifer?
Oh, sorry, I thought you said Angelica.
Yeah. No. I was referring back to the asking Angelica the same question. I was interested to know what the highlight was for you in Iceland.
Definitely the highlight for us. There was 2 different nights that we were out at a campsite and just out in the West Fjords, which is really not a very populated area of Iceland, and crystal clear skies those nights. And we were kind of laying in the camper van after we had made dinner and barbecued and things like that. And out of the van windows, you could see that the aurora borealis had started, and the green curtain started dancing across the sky, and I didn't have to. I was already dressed. I didn't really have to run down flights of stairs or hit an elevator button, or if you're in your hotel, you don't really get to see those things. So being able to see it right from the van and just sort of hop out and take our photos in a gorgeous location and then go back to bed immediately when it was over was really a highlight of doing camper van around Iceland.
Were you warm enough?
Yeah, this was September, so it was still pretty warm. It hadn't gotten very cold yet, so we were just out in like T-shirts, taking pictures of the Northern Lights, and kind of sitting in our camper van chairs and watching the show, and it was great.
I'm totally sold. I can see John sitting there going, yeah, Iceland next. Dan's already done it. The great thing about Iceland is it's an island. It's round, and essentially the roads go around the outside of it. It brings me on to navigation. I mean, we must all have seen a growth in the number of people using RVs and feeling more confident about it because they can use GPS. I mean, I'm guessing, Pat, amongst your clients, they're not getting as lost as they used to in the past.
Well, hopefully they never did, but signposting and everything else is so good, and of course there's always a friendly local you can talk to through the window to guide you. But of course the big change is that GPSs that used to be a little bit of a luxury, it's one of the things that I think a lot of people on the first day they go into Walmart and they buy one for $50 and it takes them around the trip and they give it away when they leave. It's so easy and so obvious. They're not, hopefully anyway, going to get lost, because if we've done the itinerary, they leave with the most detailed maps and description of where they're going on a day-to-day basis, which they're invited to just tear up and throw away when they change their mind along the route. That's the great thing, isn't it, about motorhomes? You can do exactly that. You go where you want it. You don't like somewhere, you can move on somewhere else. But in the main, GPSs I think do it, because again, all of the points of interest, as we all know, are on there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a suggestion for John. I don't know, probably you know that, maybe others too. There's a great app that I use for planning, and then I put it on my iPhone and have this as my navigation system. It's called Road Trippers.
Yes, I've used that.
They're awesome, and they're definitely, I guess, you are hitting your target group. Because with Road Trippers, it's, it, of course, obviously uses Google Maps, but along the road that you're planning, you can select all these super cool points, like those weirdo road signs of the US that you see, or road attractions. Really cool diners, like from the 50s diners and stuff like this, or places where they shot movies, etc., etc. And unfortunately, this is only working in Road Trip is only working well in the US. So I hope that there will be more around the world. But this is a great tool I used all the time while I did my RVing in the US.
It helped us plan our itinerary, actually. One of our destinations is in Williams, Arizona, just near the Grand Canyon. And we chose it because that app, I believe it was that app that told us about how there was a nightly gunfight that goes on there. They have this mock gunfight. It's like a Wild West town on Route 66. And they have it every night, and it just sounded too good to pass up. And so when we were trying to decide where to stay around the Grand Canyon, we thought, yeah, Williams is the place.
Yeah, it's just...
Apps and GPS are great, but sometimes they're not always the most accurate, or you hit some construction or maybe a road that's blocked. For example, on our Iceland road trip, the Horan eruption was going off, so a lot of the interior roads that could have led you into the eruption area were closed. So I think it's always a good tip when you're doing a big road like that to buy a current road map, and not a tourist one, an actual road map that shows the really small roads, so that you have something as a backup to consult if you don't have internet or your technology fails or for whatever reason.
Good point. What do you guys offer in the way of, I mean, if somebody encounters a problem like that, something unexpected, so there is in this case, a volcano going off, you have to replan it. To what extent are you able to, in other words, Pat, can clients out on the road, call you up and expect any kind of support at all? Same thing with Dan. You guys and Donna, do you offer, some kind of backup if they get into a mess? Let's go with Pat first.
Yes, we have a 24/7 telephone support for all customers on the road, and that takes care of mechanical things, but also obviously something like a local disaster. Yes, they would enable the customer to get round it and get to where they want to be. Certainly, that's standard customer service.
Donna?
Yes, I think of one or two things that have happened over the years. The most recent one probably was actually in America when we had a group who were due to drive to the Grand Canyon, and I think it was the autumn before last. You might remember when the government, there was a vote against the government and all the local services were shut down. So that meant the national parks were shut down. You couldn't access the Grand Canyon. So this was one of the highlights, obviously, of the trip. Yeah. And our folk weren't going to be able to get in there. You just simply couldn't get in if you weren't already in. So what we did was reroute them to an alternative campsite. Some people took flights in. We were able to organize helicopter flights and things like that. Other people simply carried on a different route and saw some more parts of the state that they hadn't expected to see. So yeah, you've got to provide support and backup. And if you're not going with a group, the other thing we find is the relationship that the customer develops with their travel planner is probably the same with Pat. The relationship where it can take months to put these trips together sometimes. So it's a really good relationship. And again, with smartphones and email, if there's a problem, they can just drop a line and pick it up, and there's always someone there to help them.
Dan, have you got a 24-hour emergency service?
Yeah, we absolutely. And that's actually, we're now following the sun as far as offices go. So we have a call centre in London now as well. So that covers that. But also, I mean, some of the occasions we've had where we've had issues in the far north Queensland area in Australia, where at certain times of the year it floods, the roads get blocked off, people can't travel. And I think for us, it's actually, we do it a lot on a case-by-case basis, and we'll quite often have to just you're going to have to keep the vehicle for another few days. We obviously won't charge them if they can't get to a destination. It's not their fault, or reroute them to one of our other locations. So we are still very much, I guess, in the grassroots when that happens. So it is something that comes across my desk, and we'll do it on a case-by-case basis. But there's definitely support 24/7 in the unlikely event of an issue.
You've reminded me of one aspect of this business that I think very often people aren't aware of, and that is that just like with, for example, in the UK canal boats, every now and then you need to do deliveries. You know, the motorhome rental people need to get vehicles from one location to another. So you can actually find one-way rentals. And Pat, I think you don't offer it on the site, but I think you quite often, I get emails from you about one-way rentals in the States where Cruise America are trying to get X number of motorhomes, new ones perhaps, delivered to their locations. That's quite an interesting part of the business, Pat?
Yes, it is. It's the new vehicles that we offer, and it's for travel normally in the spring when the new vehicles are coming out of the factory, which is in our case located just outside Chicago, and then need to be distributed to the other 26 locations around the US, or ditto in Canada, across the border from Toronto to other places in Canada. And it's a very, very good deal. Without going into it too much, it can work out as transportation and accommodation for as little as £5 UK per person per day, which is a selling point. But obviously, the do sell out quite quickly, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm not stressing it right now. I know here we are, we're only in March, but there's none left.
Yeah.
So that's 4,000 vehicles that have been booked to go out onto the network.
Where do people find out about that?
Well, in addition to telling our friends in travel journalists and broadcasters, such as yourself, that same information obviously goes out to all of the travel industry. So your friendly local travel agent should have all the information.
And
And
if you
Dan,
visit we put it on our website as well, worldwidemotors.co.uk on there too.
Okay. And Dan, you've got a huge global fleet. I'm guessing you have the same sort of thing?
Yeah, so we're like, just for instance, go onto our website and you'll see there's relocation deals from Los Angeles to San Francisco in the next couple of weeks, and it's $1 a day. So we're essentially needing to move fleet for festivals that are going on, and it happens right the way through New Zealand, Australia, and the US at certain times of the year. There's also quite a few companies now that are offering relocation product and transfer car. There's a few others out there that do this, and they're working with some of the large car operators as well as the motorhome RV operators. Yeah, I mean, as much as we'd rather rent them all out, there is at certain times some very good deals to be had.
Angelica, you were about to say something just now.
Yeah, I just said, call me, guys. I'm ready. Bring the people.
I can take a day, Angelica, if you can get on a flight. I've got a few vans to move.
That's no problem. Flight for me. I used to work in the airline industry, so.
I've got one question in here from Rob Ganley, and he's asking, I must remember to click these things so they go up there. There we go. What's your advice for anyone thinking about a fly drive tour to Argentina? I don't think, Dan, you're not operating in. Are you operating in South America?
South America at this stage, not yet. No.
Donna is, I think.
Yeah, we have, that's one of our furthest flung destinations. We work with a motorhome company in Argentina. It's completely different from most of the other destinations in that there's not huge fleets of motorhomes and a choice of different sizes of vehicles. In fact, I think the motorhome company, and is their leading motorhome company, has 6 vehicles.
Oh,
so,
right.
But we've operated a tour. This is the 3rd year. We've got a group going in September, and it's very different in as much as the vehicles are quite almost handmade. They're locally converted. They're not manufactured, and so it's quite interesting to see things like cookers. The little really basic little gas cookers, but with a curtain just behind them. You wouldn't normally allow, but in South America, in Argentina, things like that happen. They're lovingly cared for. It's a family-run outfit, so the care and the support comes from the family that owns it. And once you get out on the roads, as you'd imagine, the roads in Argentina are quite exciting as well. Back to your question about what roads can be like. But what people have seen, and the scenery and the people and the welcome that they've had as they've been on these. So our trip goes north. A lot of trips, people tend to go south to Patagonia, but this motorhome goes north and it takes in places like Mendoza, famous for the wines. It takes in the Valle de la Luna with the amazing lunar landscape, and Salta is a very popular city that people wish you could spend a bit longer there.
How long is that itinerary? How many days?
Ooh, I think off the top of my head it's 36 days currently. Wow. That's if you go with a group. We make arrangements for people who want to go by themselves, but the group is a good way to do it because you know it's not going to be bigger than 6 motorhomes. So you know that the people who want to do that trip are going to be similar people with travel experience and want to explore like you do. So, and we also on that one, we don't pre-book many campgrounds, partly because it's nigh on impossible. Try to pin campgrounds down to booking, as you can imagine. But also because if people like where they are and want to spend a bit longer, then they can do that. So they've got the flexibility to do that. There's funny stories about campgrounds as well. We have to prepare people, expect the campgrounds to be like like New Zealand or like America, it's you're going back in sort of time and standards. One of the best things was a shower. You turn up and the guy showing you around and he said, "You want a shower?" Yes, we would like to shower. Okay, come back in half an hour. Okay, so came back in half an hour, and round the back of the shower, which was pretty ropey, pretty grim, was a great big metal barrel with log fire underneath. It took half an hour of fire burning to heat up the water, but to have a hot shower.
Oh, cool! That is interesting because it's pioneering out there. Excellent. I've got another question in from Isa Condil. Isa says, you spoke about how GPS affects the campervan industry. How about internet and smartphone usage? Do you think that they have a positive impact on campervanning? I mean, because in the past people used to go off on a campervan trip and sort of be, cut off from the rest of the world. But again, I'm guessing it makes it more kind of easy for everybody. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Everybody has it. When you, at least in the US, if you enter a camper van or like a camp station or a campground, and you switch on your iPhone and look for Wi-Fi, first of all the campsites have Wi-Fi, even the parking lots have Wi-Fi, and then you see like probably 20 private Wi-Fis. So every camper van I have met that has at least one or even two Wi-Fis to get along, so they all have internet, they have computers on board, everybody's using apps, smartphones, at least in the US, that's what I could say. So it's definitely a pro, because I was looking up for campgrounds on my iPhone as well. So necessary and helpful.
We're in the middle of doing. Oh, sorry, Dan. Go ahead. I'll go after you.
Oh, you go, John. I'll go after you.
Oh, sure. We're in the process right now of researching, and we're planning on putting in Wi-Fi in all our vehicles. And it's so easy to do nowadays. You can get these personal Wi-Fi devices that use a 4G connection and just have Wi-Fi wherever you are. And I really think it's a place that the industry, you've got one right there, Alistair, yeah. I think it's a place that the industry needs to embrace rather than run away from. I know that there's a lot of groaning about it with people who have been traveling for anything beyond the last 5 years when this thing has really blown up, because we all remember and have the nostalgia for what it was like before. But I mean, especially for the youth market, which is sort of my field of house.
Expect to be connected.
It's not just an expectation. It's getting to the point where it's a human right. It's a utility. It's people expect it like they expect to have a hot shower. And if you're not providing that, then you're not listening to your customers. And they expect to be able to stay in touch and call mom whenever they want. And so I think it's important that we do that. And for Isaac's question in particular, it's so easy to get smartphone usage because you have these mobile hotspots that you can buy, or just my top recommendation: make sure your phone is unlocked before you travel, and buy a SIM when you get there. It's like will cost you, in the U.S. less than $50 for a month's worth of unlimited calling and a really high data rate. It's just not a problem at all. Just come with your device and plug in the new SIM card.
But I like the idea, and I suspect that Dan's got views on this as well. I like the idea of providing a MiFi unit with the camper van, not least because that one I just waved in front of you, that's a 4G MiFi. I use it all over the UK and all over Europe. As soon as I get to the States, it's useless to me. So going with an RV company that provides that kind of thing in the same way that you would with a car rental company is increasingly important. Dan, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say it is. We actually surveyed our customers I think about 12 months ago, and there was about 75 to 80% of our customers had smartphones. And so what we've actually been doing, we've developed in New Zealand at this stage, is developing an app that's a juicy app, and we can geo-target customers as well, because what we find, especially in our end of the market, is that our customers are very value-driven. So they'll drive 10 kilometres out of the way to save $5 to then go and spend $100 at the pub. But that aside, they can choose to opt in or opt out, and they want to know where we've got relationships with suppliers in certain areas where we can pass value. So I think it is it's very important. We offer Wi-Fi units in all our operations. The uptake is, I think, for the longer hires, so the Europeans coming down here, if they're here for 30 days, I agree with John, it is actually better to get a local SIM card and to put it into your phone and actually use, I mean, data in the US is so cheap. It's not so cheap in New Zealand and Australia, but it's definitely something we offer and is a very growing trend.
Okay. Guys, it's we've got about 4 minutes to go. I want to finish at the top of the hour. So I just want to turn our minds really to the future and ask you what your plans are for the year ahead and the season after that. Pat, first of all, you. What's new in your world?
I can't say new, Alistair. I think that we are representing large fleets. Nothing's going to change dramatically. What I am pleased to see, and I'm sure that others will say the same, that we seem to have got through the worst of the economic blight, and suddenly the phones are going crazy and people are wanting to catch up on their travels, and therefore we are looking at pretty good 2015 probably, 2016 already taking bookings for. So that is, I think, just more of the same but better.
Excellent. John, you're looking at your first season ahead, really, so no long distance plans, unless you're now thinking about Argentina, for example.
No, here at Turtle Rabbit, everything is new for us. But the goal and the mission statement really for the company is to bring RV travel to the masses. Right now it's such a there's a high bar to enter the RV market. We talked on this before about how Donna was saying that it's traditionally older people who are in it. It's the domain of older people and families. And one of the reasons for that is booking RVs is too hard. Right now, if you want to book an RV, you have to answer 1,000,001 questions that you.
Well, unless you go to Pat, of course, or to Dan.
I'm thinking more about booking individual RVs. So if you want to book directly with a carrier, and you have to answer whether you want linens, what kind of plates you want, how many miles you want to travel, where you want to start, where you want to finish. So many questions that it makes it inaccessible only to people who are already comfortable with it. And so our goal going forward is to make it easier for people to add this onto their roster of travel activities and not have to necessarily be completely subscribed to the subculture.
Jenny, what about you? What are your plans? Are you going to do more RVing?
Yeah, I'd really like to. One of the places that I'd like to go and do campervan like we did in Iceland is definitely New Zealand, where we write about adventure travel. So, I think that would be a fantastic place to go around and not have to worry about booking hotels and making it to a hotel by a specific time if their check-in hours are only set hours. So that's where I'd really like to do it next.
And same sort of scale, campervan as opposed to a giant Angelica-sized RV?
I think I'm going to stick with the campervan for now. I think it makes it a little bit more accessible to get to areas where you want to do some hiking and more adventure activities. So we haven't quite tried out the RV yet.
Okay, upscaling soon. Donna, what about you? You're covering all sorts of exotic places like Argentina. What are the plans for you guys?
The plan really are just to share what you can do, camping and RVing. It's to help people who wouldn't think about it as their first holiday. Like Jay said, the convenience of being outside and being in the middle of what you go to travel to see, rather than seeing from a hotel, car, and a hotel. We want more people to go RVing and motorhoming.
Excellent. Okay. Dan, global domination.
Yeah, well, I think the plans for us at the moment, I'm based over here in LA, and I'm just working on our US business. We're sort of 3 years into the business over here. We've got plans to expand over to the East Coast, hopefully within the next 6 months. and the US is a massive market and a huge opportunity for us. We're also we have a business plan on the table for the UK, which we'll be hopeful to launch at the start or for the season next year. So we're just working on that plan at this stage, and then we're just continuing to grow our New Zealand and Australian markets. The dollar is coming back a fair bit in Australia, which has been very nice because it's been a tough market where it's been so strong, and tourism's really recovering down there, and New Zealand's booming. So I think we've got as far as juicifying the world, we're well on target. We've just got to kind of pick our battles a little bit, so to make sure we can give each market the attention that it needs.
But it's a strong brand, and presumably you have a lot of loyal customers. In other words, people who've used Juicy in Australia or New Zealand, maybe in the States, who will immediately recognise Juicy when it comes to the UK, for example.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the big thing for us. And we get a lot of customers that come down that hire in New Zealand and Australia with us. A lot of them that will go to Australia and hire locally down there with going to New Zealand and using that brand association. So it is very much a brand focused business for us. So we want that traveller to, I guess, to stay with us right the way through their adventures, and as we spread throughout the world, I guess that gives us more opportunities to keep them on board. We've got hotels in New Zealand, we've got cruise boats, and I guess it's not about trying to take everything from the customer while they're down there, but it's about we can put them into our product and continue to give them the exceptional service we offer. So,
excellent. Angelica, you're always travelling anyway, so I know you're not going to be standing still. But you've done the Chicago to San Francisco, and you've done the Florida to New York via all the South. So, do you have another road trip planned or in your mind for the USA?
Oh yeah, I mean, so far I've seen 28 states. There's so much more to see. There's so many more to see. Definitely. Fell in love with California. I might be going, or try to go from Portland to Minneapolis in July. So I'll be in Portland, discovering the city, and then I'm going on a great festival in Minnesota, in Eau Claire, in July. So maybe I'll do that with a car. If maybe not, then definitely next year New Zealand. I'll hope to be back in New Zealand. We're working right now on the flights and the PRs and stuff, so let's see if I can get this done. And then, I mean, I'm always traveling. Rather seldom at home.
Minneapolis is my home, Angelica. Have fun there. You made a good choice.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, maybe you should come. It's from Bon Iver, great festival. Eau Claire, be there.
Oh, man. Sounds amazing. Have fun.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, guys, let's call it a day there. My plans for the immediate future will be focused on next week's edition of the program. Some of you may know that on Friday, in a couple of days' time, we've got a partial eclipse of the sun transiting the UK. About 90% of the sun's going to be covered up, I understand. And I've been wondering if that's sort of triggered in people's minds the whole business of going to see eclipses. There are specialist tour companies who do eclipse tours and astronomy tours, and there are, of course, a number of companies who specialize in the aurora borealis, taking people up to see that, as Jenny did in Iceland. In fact, as you could have done last night in Scotland, because we've just had some major solar activity. Anyway, the point of all this is I've got a couple of those companies coming in to join me next week at the same time. I do hope you'll join me then. To all my guests, many, many thanks, and see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye for now.
Safe travel.